Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Rainbow Crossing Podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and with me is my best friend, my roommate, my grandpa.
Well, you know what?
It was going good, and then
you were going so well.
I know.
After kind of bouncing around the opening there for a second. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. My mind was just one direction, and then I was speaking, and then I was on autopilot, and then my mind was thinking about other things, and I'm like, wait, I just got to finish what I'm saying. But then as I was saying it, I was like, do I even know what I'm saying? I feel like I probably repeated something twice.
No, I think you did it right. I think
okay.
It sounded correct.
Sounded weird in my mind, but as I was saying it, I was second guessing everything. Anyway, yeah, I'm good. That probably just shows where I'm at.
Glad to
so far,
hear
so good.
it.
It's been a busy week.
Yes.
So my social battery is at a low.
A little drained. I haven't seen you much this week.
I know.
Because
you've been busy.
Well, I've been busy also, but you have been equally or more perhaps busy.
Yes, definitely. I worked all week, and then Friday night I had a potluck with my friends because one of my good friends is moving to Spain.
Yeah.
And
Madrid.
Yeah, Madrid. Which, Joel, we love you, and we miss you already.
Yeah.
He's actually on his way right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is sad because we've been friends for only 2 years, but still, even in those 2 years, we've seen him constantly, and it's just been a good time, and it was something special. And then having one of your good friends just leave to a whole different country. Yeah. But honestly, he's probably lucky at this point.
I mean, we've talked about where we might want to move if we need to get out. Spain is at the top of my list.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Madrid. I've only been at the airport at Madrid, but Madrid looks amazing, and it's just everything is so accessible in Spain anyway. Madrid being kind of center, it would be amazing to live, and got to get that passport. But
sure,
a visit.
I mean, I've never left the country, but now I have a reason to, especially if I have a friend moving over there.
Right.
So that's exciting. But congratulations on your new chapter, Joel. But you'll be missed.
It's a new adventure for him, and good for him doing it at an age where he has more flexibility to be able to do it and get out there.
I'm sure he'll be fine. He'll manage.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah.
Amazing person. But then after that next morning after that, I went and was DJing for a 1-year anniversary at a fitness studio.
Right.
Which I DJ'd longer than I slept.
Yeah.
I got there at 7, DJ'd from 8 to 2 p.m. and I went to sleep at 12, almost 1. Yeah. And woke up at 6:15.
That's a long DJ set, by the way.
It is a long DJ set, but it was per class. So honestly,
were you able just to repeat? Okay.
Yeah. And it's as I started getting more with the flow of it, if I was gonna do different songs the whole way through, that'd be kind of a challenge. But it was a specific set, and then in the middle, in between transition, I would just play whatever I wanted at that point and had a little bit more fun with it.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a good time, and honestly, I am feeling a lot more comfortable behind the decks.
Did you get good feedback?
I did. I got great feedback. A lot of people came up to me like, "Oh my god, that was one of the best sets that we've had in here," and if this could be the music every day, it'd be so great. I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then someone even followed me on SoundCloud, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm working my way up."
That's right.
To where I need to be.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yep. And then today's my first day off.
Right. And here we are still doing a little bit of work. Yeah.
Yeah, but how was your weekend, mister?
It was good. I kicked it off by baking a cheesecake from scratch, which I have not done in probably a decade. I used to bake all of the time, everything, all kinds of cakes and cookies and pies, brownies, etc., cheesecakes. And I had not done this in a really long time. It did turn out really well.
Yeah,
I was really impressed with myself that I hadn't lost that touch with it. So started off with that, had a friend come in and visit. He just took off a little while ago. So we had a little birthday party last night that we went to and just kind of hanging out and not doing a lot of work. So now that he's gone, I have a little bit of an itch to get some things done. I got laundry going downstairs. I was doing some work when you walked in, getting ready for the podcast, so it'll be a busy few days catching up. It's a shame that I have to catch up from a weekend of just relaxing. Yeah. Isn't that what weekends are supposed to be for?
Yeah.
And yet
they're supposed to be.
And yet
we're working.
Yeah, we're working. So as we walk into this new week, I want to reflect a little bit on the last week or so. and talk about our icons. I have, I think, a really fun icon this week to talk about. Do you have an icon that you want to chat about?
I do have an icon that I want to talk about. Our queen on Traders, who just gives the most positive, fun, warm, lovable humor. Just the vibes are 10 out of 10 all the time. Every time she opens her mouth, you're just entertained. Gabby, Wendy, she's just that girl. She's that girl.
She's so fun.
Everything she says, I'm just captivated and just want to know more. Even when she's like being real and trying to get people to like not like her, she's just still so captivating.
And she is a representative of our community. She is a lesbian. She was on The Bachelor, but she came out as lesbian after the fact.
She sure did. As the people that I wanted to go far in this season have slowly started to crumble down to zero, she is someone that I fell in love with during the season because I didn't know who she was prior to the season. And now that I'm watching her, I'm like, oh my God, this was a great casting. And also like the fact that we still have someone in the cast so far that people are admiring is just amazing. 10 out of 10.
Gabby is just so effortlessly funny.
Yes.
It's just who she is. And I don't think
she just speaks her truth.
She's not trying to be funny necessarily. She just is.
Yes.
And
that's what's beautiful.
Yeah.
In a way, like seeing more of her videos and seeing her talk, I'm like, she's giving off like a younger, modern version of our Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like in the way she talks, the way she carries herself. It's
absolutely.
Just, 10 out of 10.
I love that.
Same energy in regards to like the warmth and the humor and like even when it gets like a little shady, it's still like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That was right.
Yeah. My icon of the week, Pedro Pascal, has done a little twist on his fandom because he came out in favor of trans rights this week.
King.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben King.
Yeah, he's been king for a while, but now even more so. And obviously, he probably angered some people on the right, but I think he gained a lot of very loyal followers as a result of it. So he posted a photo with a sign that I've seen other people post after he did it. The sign read, "A world without trans people has never existed and never will." And then he put a comment on there that said, "I can't think of anything more vile and small and pathetic than terrorizing the smallest, most vulnerable community of people who want nothing from you except the right to exist."
Everyone wants to just be treated equal, and once you see each other as human beings and nothing really separates us besides like ruling classes.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
Right. We all want the same things in life. We just want to exist, as he said. But what made him even more of a king, like that was already king move right there, but what made him even more of a king, whether it was him or I'm sure he has a social media person, but he obviously directs them as how to respond to these things. So there were a few comments that he responded to. So one said, "That's going to be an unfollow." And he said, "Later, Gator."
Bye, girl.
Another one did 4 of the barf emojis, the vomit emojis. And he said, "Bye." And someone else did, "You were my favorite actor. I'm unfollowing you." To which he responded, "No." And then the nail painting emoji, which was awesome. One more said, "Man, you were one of my favorite actors until this." And then he said, "That's too bad. Wait, no, I don't give a shit." Some people may not understand what trans people go through, the desire to live their authentic selves in a different body. I get that you may not understand that, but again, it doesn't hurt you in any way.
At all.
They are just wanting to live their life.
For sure.
They don't want to change you. They don't want to change your kids. They don't want to be a parent to your children.
So for everyone who's being pressed about it, it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Hopefully it wakes you up and realizing that, oh, wait, this has nothing to do with me. They're just another person. Maybe I should be supportive of them as well because it takes nothing from you at all.
Yeah, so anyway, he's an icon. Gabby's an icon.
Icons.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows this week because we are living under President Trump here in 2025.
Yep, which just feels like a joke. But sometimes life feels like a joke.
Yeah. It's like one Saturday Night Live sketch after another at the White House these
and then you're
days.
like, oh, that's not a parody clip? Nope, that's real life.
We do have a couple of things that we wanted to briefly touch
in
on.
regards to the news.
Yeah.
Clouds and color.
Yeah. Do you want to talk Zelensky's visit?
Yeah, which I'm sure if you haven't seen it by now, the president of Ukraine came to the Oval Office and had a conversation with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. And it was honestly the most embarrassing thing to witness
Yeah.
when it comes to world leaders, because it looked like two guys just bullying some other guy for whatever reason, when the two guys who were bullying the president of Ukraine, it was giving privilege. Like, this guy is in the middle of war with a huge country that is also very powerful, and y'all are basically just shitting on him and saying that he's unqualified and that he should be replaced and that Russia should basically just have their way with him. It's very, very, what's the word? Well, there's so many words. Ignorant, oblivious,
Sociopathic.
sociopathic.
Yeah, I have a hard time listening to Trump speak on any topic. I feel like secondhand embarrassment.
It is. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
To have, quote unquote, one of the most powerful countries in the world, being the United States of America, fumbling the bag when it comes to just being diplomatic with your neighbors.
Right.
What? How are we supposed to survive as a country after that? And this is just the beginning, which is even more crazy. So maybe we should start focusing on adding that pressure to our senators and our congressmen and all that to hold Trump accountable for all of his actions and the way he is representing us as a country.
I think that is happening right now. We talked a little bit last week about these town hall meetings and the backlash against GOP elected officials from GOP heavy districts.
Yeah.
And of course, they're using the talking point, as they always do. Oh, the people who were there and speaking out against us are actually just Democratic puppets that were placed in there to disrupt the proceedings. Then why was the whole room cheering at different points?
Yeah. So why is Trump jerking off Putin and being like, I will do whatever you say and just
Well, that's a great question.
be your little
isn't it?
pound cake?
That is an excellent question. And it could just be that he idolizes Putin because of how he runs his
What?
country.
A man idolizing another man?
Yeah.
Isn't that gay? Isn't that like super gay? Because that's the energy it's giving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Here we are.
here we are.
This is America.
Yeah. Speaking of America, did you know that the United States of America's official language is English?
Oh.
How do you feel about that?
Well, that was signed recently, right?
Yes,
Because
correct.
that's such an important thing to cover, you
Yes.
know? And cuando hablas español... Oh, wait. ¿Puedo hablar español ahorita? ¿Me van a decir que no? No puedo hablar español. Me dicen que necesito hablar inglés. Okay. Well, I guess we're still not going to do that because fuck that shit. You can speak whatever you want. You can speak Spanish. You can speak English. You can speak Portuguese. You can speak French. You can speak anything that you want in the States because last time I checked and what I was taught in the schools is that America's land of the free, right?
Correct.
Home of the brave?
Yeah.
So run that fucking mouth.
Right.
In any language that you want.
Yeah. Obviously.
Oh, but how are grocery prices?
I was gonna
How are the
say.
things that matter?
I think the bigger point here is that this is something that gets his base riled up. You know, the fact that, there's people from other countries flooding in here and they're speaking, Spanish or whatever, not your language. And so this is a win for you. And because there are no real wins, this is just a fake win. Because what is it actually going to do? No one is going to speak fewer foreign languages as a result of this being written. This is not going to change any prices. It's not going to affect the economy in any form. So what does this really do to our country? It's going to do nothing. The only thing it's going to do is bolster up his base that's already showing hatred towards minority groups.
Yeah.
And so they're going to now, literally, they're going to say, this is America. You have to speak English in this country. They've already been saying that, but now it's really going to embolden them when they do this. So it's really just jacking up the
sure.
hate speech that's going to come.
Well, my counteract to this is, you know what? Why don't we just start learning new languages? Why don't we start challenging ourselves to think outside of the box? Because in reality, they're just trying to dumb us down. Challenge yourself. Learn a new language. And then speak it out in public as much as you'd like. With whoever you'd like. Because this is still America, right?
Broaden your mind.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Speaking of our higher learning opportunities here, I don't know if you heard about this, But on Thursday, this past week, there was an announcement of a new website, a new portal, enddei.ed.gov. enddei. So on Thursday, the U.S. Department of Education launched this portal for anyone to submit reports of discrimination based on race or sex in publicly funded K through 12 schools. The portal allows for an email address, the name of the student's school or school district, and details of the concerning practices. The Department of Education will use submissions as a guide to identify potential areas for investigation.
So what you're initially saying is that someone could easily be like, oh, this principal is POC. This person is queer. They should not be in charge of X, Y, and Z. And then they do an investigation on them?
Right. So it's a bit contradictory because it says you're submitting reports of discrimination based on race or sex, but it's in DEI. So DEI is about bringing diversity, equity, inclusion to a workplace.
Yeah.
And it's saying we want to end DEI, so any discriminatory practices need to be reported upon. But if we're ending the program DEI that is helping to end discrimination, aren't we opening the door for the discrimination? So isn't this end DEI portal really just talking about, oh, I don't like the fact that someone of color, a female
Is my boss.
someone who I don't think is qualified is in a position of power? Aren't we just asking them to report on those people?
Yeah.
That's what they're wanting out of this DEI concept. So to that, I say it would be awful if someone, groups of people, thousands of people, just flooded this website with fake reports that don't mean anything at all and cause them to just spin their wheels just trying to figure out what is factual and what isn't. It would be awful if our viewers went to, let me get the website again, enddei.ed.gov. It would be awful if our viewers went to that website and just made up fake stuff and reported. I would hate that. Am I sarcastic enough right now?
I hope so.
it?
I
Okay.
hope people are going to flood these places with false claims
Yeah.
and all that to basically confuse them. Because if they're trying to do these things to make things harder for us, let's make things harder for them. Yeah. Let's reverse the roles on everything.
I mean, do they even have enough employees at this point to
Probably
read
not.
through this? So I this obviously gives, and maybe it's not obvious to a younger generation, but it gives 1950s McCarthyism vibes of where everyone was reporting everyone for being a Soviet-minded person or a homosexual. I mean, that show that we watched,
Yeah, Fellow Travelers.
That
was in that era.
It was in that era
time.
and that was focused on weeding out any gay people in federal
Which
organizations.
is basically what's happening, but this is on just Department of Education, which is
Right.
crazy.
It's these fake initiatives that don't really mean anything. They don't actually affect anyone. But it's the idea of, women are coming for your jobs. And, even though you're qualified, all these DEI programs have been put into place to give people who aren't qualified a job over you. When you have someone who, like Jasmine Crockett, for example, who talks about how she has to work 5 times as hard as a white counterpart just to get the same opportunities that they do. So, DEI has never lifted up someone who isn't worthy of it
At all.
It just gives someone the potential to reach the same heights that traditionally white men have been able to step in off of the street without the same level of education or experience, etc.
We still have to work just as hard or even harder for that position.
Yeah.
Whereas it were for someone who's white or specifically male, it's more like, okay, yeah, here you go.
Right.
There's not that second judgment on that person.
Yeah.
As there would be for anyone else, which sucks.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to be at your A game at all costs to be in a position of responsibility and power.
Right. It's a tough world out there.
It sure is.
And politically, at home, in the dating world,
Yeah.
it's tough all over.
It sure is. That's life in a way.
Yeah.
It's basically going to throw a lot of different things at you at once, and you kind of have to balance it or you crumble.
Yeah.
But you can always put the pieces back together.
Right. That's kind of what we're trying to do here, is just offer a community to uplift, to support, and to let everybody know that we're all kind of going through the same things. Yes, some people are suffering true discrimination out there that I may not, as a white man, face. But at the end of the day, we are all struggling to make enough money and to have a roof over our heads and enough food and to
go after your dreams
and to follow your dreams and to love and to be loved. And we're all facing the same trials and tribulations. And no trial or tribulation is more traumatic than dating.
Oh my God, you came back to dating. Is that what this conversation's about?
Yeah.
Once again?
We haven't really talked about dating in a long time. Maybe it's because we weren't doing much of it, and so we didn't.
Who's dating? Are you
have
dating?
A lot of. I didn't say that.
Dates?
I didn't say that. I don't know who's going on dates in this house.
I have gone on some dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe me too.
Oh, so now we're being open and honest. Interesting how we got here. I had to basically twist your nipple a little bit, and you'd be like, "Yeah, me too, I guess."
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
This is more your alley than it is mine. You have better navigation skills when it comes to the dating world than it does me.
Well, it's just because I got a lot more years of
For
dating
sure.
on you,
For
which
sure.
is nothing to brag about, because I don't want to be dating. I want to just be in a relationship and not worry about the dating part of it. But unfortunately, you can't go from 0 to 100. You got to get in the middle somewhere there.
Yeah. You have to meet in the middle. But sure, let's talk about it.
Yeah, as I see less of you because you are going on dates these days, I'm not going to spill all of your stuff.
Oh my God. You really just went there. Well, first of all, it's been really hard to try to balance myself
Yeah.
and someone else, which it's been great.
Yeah.
It's been great. But it has been difficult to try to keep parts of myself that I've worked hard to get to, and also manage a whole new connection.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a lot.
yeah. And I'm trying to go as slow as possible because I'm in no rush. And I got to feel 100% myself before I commit to anything else.
Of course.
So
I would hope so.
it's been chill.
So you're not exactly in the early dating stages. You're not going on date 1 or 2 here, but you're not in the we're monogamous, we're just seeing each other stage. So you're in that middle zone right now where you're trying to figure out, is this person the right person for me? Or do we share enough of the same similarities, background, etc., to where this is a really good match? So I was thinking that we would talk about our top 5 questions that we need to ask as we're dating, as we're starting to seriously date someone, to make sure that this is the right person for me and that I'm the right person for them.
Definitely. And these 10 questions specifically, because I'm going to ask 5, you're going to ask 5.
Yeah.
Are pretty solid questions.
Yeah,
in
for
regards
sure.
to anything you might need to know to navigate through the connection successfully, but also anything that you might have not thought about that could have shaped the person to see if you're compatible.
Right. And this is not a slight against you. If you're in your 20s, in your early to mid 20s, and you're dating someone, you may not be thinking about these things because you haven't encountered some of these questions.
Oh, 1,000%. Prior to this is the first time, by the way, listeners, that I'm actually dating someone consistently.
Right.
So prior,
And someone who's a healthy,
yes,
you know,
who's
a healthy relationship.
Yeah, green flags all the way.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just more of like I knew who I was prior to this experience, and I've worked hard to get there. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, before this, I was like, yeah, I think I could date someone. And now when I'm doing it, I'm like, whoa, I've never thought about this question, this question, this question, this question.
Yeah.
I did not think that I'd be struggling with this, and this. And it's like, whoo, this is actually a lot of hard work. But communication is key.
Right.
And that will make any connection peaceful if
Right.
you really try to.
Yeah.
So whether that's being disconnected with something or being uncomfortable or maybe not accepting something, having those open conversations will definitely make a clear path for where you need to go and where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all a journey, and we're going to talk about it. Not
Right.
my dating. I'm a very private person. We're not going to talk about my dating experience. We're just going to talk about things that you might need to ask the person that you're dating,
Right.
or things that you might need to realize yourself in regards to who you are and how you are in a relationship with a partner,
Right.
with someone that you're interested in.
Right. Yeah, because this opens not only your eyes to someone else, it opens your eyes to yourself.
For sure.
Honestly, as you were saying, you're figuring things out about yourself as you're
Yeah.
going through this, what you need, what you want, and a lot of it just brings out this new version of yourself, and it could be in the best possible way, and hopefully it's in the best possible way.
1,000%.
So, do you want to go first with a question that you would be asking?
Okay, we are going to start. This might be a little deep, but a great question to ask them once you've dated a couple times, whatever. I know a lot of people are like, don't talk about your ex. I'm very much, let's talk about your ex. I want to know, when was the last time you dated someone and why that relationship ended?
Right.
Because that's going to tell you so much information about where you were in it and what made it end.
Yeah.
So I love talking about our pasts. And you can also kind of see where they're at. Have they healed from it? How they're holding on to it? Which, it's okay if you haven't moved on. Like, I'm not going to judge that person. But
Sure.
also, like, I might take my time a little bit more to build those connections and hopefully still have something going on forward. Because if you're really, really holding on, then that can either tell you to dip, or that can tell you that, okay, sure, maybe you were just hurt. And maybe you just need a little bit more time to get rid of those emotions and replace them with something better.
I don't think I shared this with you. Within the last few months, I matched with someone on Tinder or whatever, and he was just coming out of a relationship, like a long relationship, like they lived together kind of relationship. And he had added me on Facebook too, and I saw some of his posts, and he had a lot of anger towards this ex. I don't know what the situation was, nor does it need to be shared necessarily, but the decision to break up was not his. And he was showing a lot of emotion about it, which I get. I've been there. But it was very fresh. And so he was talking about, we had matched, and then I saw this, and then we were talking a little bit more. Like, so do you want to hang out soon? And I had to be very frank with him. And I was like, I don't think you're at the point where, and I didn't want to say it like, I don't think you should be dating right now. But I think I turned it around and was like, I don't think where you're at is the right time for me to be dating you right now. And I think he understood, and he didn't. I don't think no feelings were hurt. We hadn't even met at that point. But it really is important to gauge where someone's emotions are with past relationships. And it is very telling about how that relationship ended and how they handled it. And because there's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings.
No. And if they get unbothered by it, that's even more of a telling sign. We should talk about it. Like, why are you having these feelings that were so triggering about your ex? Like, if this is going to be a safe space for us to talk about one another, we got to know what's gotten us to this point. Yeah. So I think that's a great question to ask.
Well, yeah, agreed.
And a very necessary question to ask.
Very important. Yeah. One of my questions, how do you handle conflict in relationships? And when I say that, I specifically think of, and this is something that I only learned in the last couple of years as I was going through my last breakup, those attachment styles, the avoidant versus anxious versus secure. So how do you handle conflict? Because the person I dated previously wasn't avoidant. And so that means that if things got too heated, if they didn't like what they were hearing, what they were feeling, they would say, I'm out. And it may not be I'm done with the relationship, but it's like I'm just going to leave and get in their car, maybe just sit in the car for 30 minutes, maybe actually leave. But that's an avoidant type. Whereas the anxious, which is what I had traditionally been.
Still are. I'm kidding.
I mean,
it can happen at times when you're deep in it. Like, all you want to do is be with the person that you care about, and that's one of your traits.
Yeah,
but you're not like, I need you here now.
Right, exactly. But that anxious person does like want to resolve everything right away. Like, I feel like any conflict is the end of the world, let alone the relationship. So like, what can we do to resolve this right now? And the other person may just need some time. And I have gotten to the point where I'm just like, first of all, it's not the end of my world because I've gone through big breakups before, survived, thrived as a result of it. So I'll be okay. So I definitely have leaned out of the anxious attachment style, and the happy middle area is the secure attachment, where everything is healthy and you're both talking it through, you're listening, you're giving each other enough space, etc. And so how does someone handle conflict in a relationship? And if there's someone who hits the road every time something comes up, or if there's someone who begs and pleads for you to come back when people just need a little bit of space, then...
But it's crazy how those two can affect like more than just that. Like you could be avoidant angry. You could be angry anxious, where you're just kind of sporadic all over the place and not being able to control your emotions, and it becomes crazy. Or you become angry avoidant, where you like disappear and go on a rage of like drinking or whatever to just feel like that is not an issue at the moment.
Emotions feed into all of this, and there's a lot of struggles that can result if you don't understand what kind of attachment style you are.
And sometimes you just need to experience it, because someone could say, oh, yeah, this is how I handle conflict. But then when the pressure is actually added,
especially in a relationship,
for sure, you can see what is actually the truth. But that is when you just communicate and try your best to communicate and call it out. Be like, you are being avoidant. Why are you ignoring me? Or, hey, you're coming at me way too strong. I need space.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, absolutely. What else you got?
Another question I got for you is, what's your connection with your family like? Which is an interesting question for queer people, period.
Absolutely.
Because most of our connections with our family, there's just some type of heavy weight to it.
Yeah, oftentimes there's some strain there.
Yes.
And God bless the people who never experienced that.
Sure.
I would love to have been in your shoes as a young adult. But yeah, it really is important to know what someone's relationship with their family is, not only on that end, but on the other end. And this is not necessarily a negative, but I was in a relationship with someone who called his mom like every single day. And that, to me, some people may say that's a green flag. I think that's a red flag. I think, and it obviously depends on the person and the situation, but like you almost need that familial connection on a daily basis just to make it through oftentimes. And it isn't necessarily a healthy thing. Like having a loving family, a supporting family, and wanting to check in, obviously that's a great thing. But just because you talk to your family every day doesn't necessarily mean there's a healthy situation going on. There's a lot of potential there for good and bad paths. At the end of the day, it's just important that we keep our eyes open and that we're aware of what that means to them, and also what that potentially could mean to us.
Yeah. And it can also show how much pressure they have to it. Like, how are they delivering the message in regards to their connection with their family? If they're feeling sad talking about it, if they're feeling angry talking about it, or if they feel like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Because sometimes it might not be for them. Not everyone is super connected with their family.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. One of mine. What does a healthy sex life look like to you?
That is a great question to ask. You're not asking me this, but it's a great question to ask.
I really don't want to.
A great question to ask someone that you're dating, because when you first start dating someone, it can be fire. Like, it's just
of course, the passion is there.
Yeah, it's there. But as it gets to go on, it's like, I was more horny at the beginning, but now I can see that you're the person that's more horny all the time,
right?
Or it can go from a place of like, maybe physical touch is number one for them, and then they just need to maybe have more sex to feel love, and the other person might have the opposite. So there's multiple different things that can come down to it, and I think you just need to find the right balance and the right person to be compatible with, because sex is supposed to be a very spiritual and passionate, loving experience.
Yeah. Could be. Exactly. Sexual compatibility is important in a relationship, and every couple has to navigate that. And some people are very lucky that they just sync up the right way. But most of us do not sync up exactly with our partner's sexual needs and desires. So it's an important conversation to get out of the way up front. And I know it can be maybe a little bit embarrassing, but if you're going to be in a relationship with this person, you need to be able to be completely open with everything you got inside of you, and vice versa. And if they're not, if they're holding something back, then maybe it's not the right connection for you, at least at that time. So really important conversation to have. And I mean, our gay world, sex is is always a topic of conversation.
And it's sometimes number one or number two on everyone's list when it comes to a relationship, which is crazy, but it's understandable. If it means that much to you, it's got to be important, or you just got to find that same wavelength or that middle ground with that person to make it work.
Absolutely. What else you got for us?
Another one, a great question to ask is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's more realistic than someone's like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Because 5 years, it feels like a long time away, but as the years go by, you're like, that's actually pretty quick.
It goes by
and
fast.
That's probably maybe 2 to 3 amazing milestones if you're lucky in regards to accomplishments.
Sure.
So I want to know what those goals are in regards to that. And are you someone who's going to constantly be having these things set for you, or are you content and happy where you're at? Which is also okay. But at the end of the day, it's nice to challenge yourself and want something for your future.
Right.
Whether you know what it is or whether you don't, find out. Something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a goal-oriented person, it's nice to be in a relationship with a goal-oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're on the same wavelength as far as like, we're in this era of our lives where we're putting in a lot of work right now, and that's not going to be forever, but we're both working towards a certain goal. And it's not necessary for that to match up in that way, but anytime that you're a little more compatible with someone, it helps in the relationship long term. So just a good thing to talk about for sure. Another one of mine, what's your biggest fear when it comes to relationships? And that question can bring out some interesting answers.
Yeah, you'll really get to see where their mindset is. If this is just a moment where you're having fun and maybe not thinking it's going anywhere else, or if you're getting to see if that person's actually serious in regards to maybe failing the relationship. Because if they are worried about like, oh, I'm scared I'm going to fail the relationship, then it shows that they care about it, that for some reason they might be self-sabotaging and trying to figure out why they're feeling this way. But if they're showing the passion and care for what is scaring them in the relationship, I feel like those are all good signs, in my opinion.
Yeah, a fear doesn't have to be a bad thing necessarily. No. A fear can be something like, I acknowledge this fear and I'm working on it to be a better person and to be a better partner in a relationship. The answer that you're looking for as the person asking the question isn't necessarily in the exact answer, but it might be in the approach to the answer, like how they're dealing with it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm scared to fail, especially when things are going great. Like, it's like, what is going to happen? And that's just life sometimes. You just think of those things, like what's going to be the downfall of this, especially when you have something nice that you're maybe not so familiar with and you're used to having these bad things happen to you. Your mind will take you there. So maybe it's nice to crack open that bottle from the straight off the bat and see what we can work on.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Well, I got one more. Do you want kids? Is a very important question for me personally. I know a lot of people don't want kids.
Yeah.
And it's just a great question to ask, period, because you also get to see a different side of them. Like, do they want kids? And also how excited about it they are, or how much they might care for kids. Like, just the warmth and energy talking about having a future with 2 kids or any kid is just lovely.
That's one of those things that I think can be a fundamental deal breaker. You want kids, I don't want kids. Well, what are we going to do? Like, maybe we should not be together. If you are 100% wanting kids and I'm 100% not wanting kids, there's no middle ground there. You can't have half of a kid. So that is a very important early question to ask. There's some things like that question that are just essential to ask right out of the gate.
And if they're in the middle path of like, I don't know, maybe, then there's nothing wrong with exploring. And especially as you start to build trust with someone and actually that relationship starts to blossom, you might want something in regards to responsibility within the 2 of you. So it could be limitless.
Right.
If you just want it or thinking about it, be open to it. But if it's a hard no and you want kids, then maybe it's time to
at least rethink the situation.
Exactly.
Another one of mine, how do you handle stress and difficult emotions?
Well, you get really angry and just start going crazy for whatever reason.
And turn violent also.
And turn very violent.
No.
Oh my God. This scar right here? Yeah. I'm joking.
This is a little different from just conflict. That was one of my first questions was how do you handle conflict? But how do you handle stress? And how do you handle those difficult emotions? Because stress happens in everybody's life on a daily basis. And it's really important to know, how does stress affect you? Do you see the world in a negative view? as a result of that? Are you a more positive, glass is half full kind of person? Because that's me. I don't want to date a glass is half empty kind of person. So it's really important for me to understand out of the gate, how do you handle the rough day-to-day stuff? And then the stress that's going to come from a relationship, because there will be stress in the relationship.
For sure. I agree. That's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
How do you handle stress?
Yeah.
Last question for me on my end,
Yeah.
which is probably the most juiciest questions of all questions, is what has hurt you the most in life?
Oh,
Because your pain will really show you who you are
yeah.
and where you're going and what it has done to you. In regards to being in this exact moment as who you are as an individual, it gets to show you all those things, because if you open up those scars and you understand who they are, it can show you if they're holding on to something and might spaz out at times, or if they have learned from it and are on a different direction.
Yeah. That's a juicy and often difficult question to ask. Definitely not first date question.
No, that's why it was my last question. I'm like, that's for later.
It should be a few questions into that, but it really is important, because it gives you an insight into the person, into their psyche, because the worst thing that happens to you, like those are the kind of things that shape us for years and years to come. And sometimes it's one of those things that it takes a lot to break out of that.
For sure. Like, I can't think of the nicest thing someone has done that has shaped me, but I can think of the worst thing that has happened to me that has shaped me.
Yeah. Yeah. My last question, also a little different from the ones that we've been asking. Do you give a thank you wave when cars stop to let you cross traffic lanes to the opposite side?
I do.
I know.
And that's a great question.
I do too. And I know it's a stressful situation. You're trying to watch for traffic. You're making sure that they're not coming on. Are you giving the wave as you drive by? Because they took notice that you're trying to turn, and they stopped, and especially if it's multiple lanes of traffic.
Yeah.
So I give the wave. I always give a thank you wave, because I really appreciate that you let me in. So if someone doesn't give a wave, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that, because you're not showing the appreciation that someone.
I even say thank you.
Yeah. Give a. Yeah. So that's my last question. I think it's very revealing as to where a person's mindset is, as far as like a positive attitude. Are you grateful? Are you approaching life with gratitude? How considerate
and aware you are of your surroundings, just because,
Exactly.
Great question.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are all armed with the best possible questions now to find the best possible relationships. So no more complaints. No more. I'm not connecting with someone. You got it. Everybody's got it now.
You got it. At this point, you have the recipe.
Yeah.
You're getting it from two single people who have been in multiple successful relationships.
So how could it go wrong? I don't think it can. Absolutely.
That was sarcasm, unless y'all girlies didn't hear it. But thank y'all so much for listening. It was a good episode.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back again next week.
Yeah. Please give us a like, a comment, a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.